Welcome to the AI Research Roundup. I'm Alex. Today we're looking at a paper from the Hugging Face trending list, published on December 23, 2025, about 3 days ago. This paper shows that instead of exploring token by token during reinforcement learning, you can explore in the model's internal residual stream activations, and that internal reinforcement learning over these latent controllers can solve sparse reward hierarchical tasks where standard reinforcement learning fine-tuning fails. The paper is titled Emergent Temporal Abstractions in Autoregressive Models Enable Hierarchical Reinforcement Learning. And, as we'll see later, the method learns long timescale action controllers with their own termination signals, which makes exploration a lot more efficient. Figure 1 explains why the approach can explore faster than token by token action sampling, because it switches between longer-lived internal controllers. The full diagram lays out the meta-controller steering residual stream activations inside a frozen autoregressive model, so the base model keeps doing next action prediction while the steering changes its behavior. Panel A shows the switching signal beta t that updates a latent code zt only sometimes. Panel B shows internal reinforcement learning, where the policy acts on these abstract codes on a shorter timescale. Figure 2 pins down what an abstract action really means in these experiments, namely moving toward a colored subgoal rather than choosing every tiny motor command. Panel A contrasts raw actions, like joint torques for the ant, with completing a color goal in the grid world, so the hierarchy has a concrete target. Panel B shows the data setup, where pre-training uses unlabeled expert trajectories and testing recombines subgoals into new sequences. Figure 5 explains how the meta-controller turns a whole trajectory into a small set of long-lasting internal actions. The full diagram shows a future condition encoder, meaning it can look at the entire activation sequence during training so it can propose better controller codes. The switching unit outputs beta t, which decides whether to keep the current code or switch, so behaviors persist over many steps. The controller decoder then produces an internal controller that edits the residual stream inside the frozen base model. Figure 8 makes the practical point that internal reinforcement learning is the only approach here that reliably improves on sparse reward tasks. The figure shows the learning curves, where success rate rises as training episodes increase, so higher curves mean better exploration and credit assignment. Panel A shows the discrete grid world, and the green internal reinforcement learning curve climbs while the baselines stay flat. Panel B shows the ant control case, and the same pattern holds with a steadier gain. Table A1 spells out what the model practices during pre-training, which matters because the later sparse reward tests recombine these pieces in new ways. The table lists sequences like 0 to 1 to 4 to 5, where each number is a colored cell the agent must visit in order. The top entries emphasize the subgoal chunk 0 to 1 paired with different follow-ups. The bottom entries mirror that structure for the other chunks, so the training set covers many compositional permutations without defining a single fixed script. Alright, 2 takeaways stand out. First, pre-trained autoregressive models seem to already contain options like long timescale behaviors in their residual stream activations, and a meta-controller can switch among them with a learned termination signal. Second, internal reinforcement learning over those latent controllers makes sparse reward, hierarchical tasks far more learnable than token-level fine-tuning, which hints at a practical path to scalable hierarchical reinforcement learning in foundation models. That is it for this episode of the AI Research Roundup. I am Alex. Thanks for listening.